Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of New Music Finds. So this is where I like to collect together all the different albums and things that I've purchased over the past week that are related to music, present it to you, run through it, give you a little bit of breakdown on it, all that great stuff. I've got 10 CDs, 1 record, and 5 concert shirts to run through with you guys. We'll do that here in just a bit, but before we get started, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, if you turn on notifications, you're gonna stay up to date on really cool episodes just like this with New Music Finds. So, as I always like to do, I like to kick off with brand new releases, and I actually got quite a few here because some of these go back a few weeks to things that I showed you guys in my What Just Dropped episodes, where I run through sort of a much broader spectrum of releases that come out, even when they're things that I'm not particularly interested in. And sometimes I've actually found things in it that I ended up enjoying enough to go ahead and get. One of them being this group called Black Rose, a new wave of British heavy metal band. This was their second album. It's a reissue here. It actually comes with a bonus DVD on it as well. So you get the second album, Walk It Like You Talk It, this one, and then you get an EP on it called Nightmare. Don't confuse this band though, Black Rose, with the one that was led by Cher and Les Dudek. That's not the same band. This one is the UK version of the name Black Rose. But it's good stuff. If you like new wave of British heavy metal sounding stuff from the very early 80s, these guys are fantastic. I didn't know anything about them, but once I read that they were part of that scene, I went ahead and took a chance on it. I'm glad I did. Same thing for this next one, which is out on Bad Reputation Records. I talked it up a number of times, mostly because the release date kept getting pushed back on it, but I finally got my copy. Poison Dolly's self-titled release of an album, I believe. Yeah, actually, because I was just checking the spine of it to make sure. It's an all-female heavy metal band. I think the album itself was recorded in '85, and it's their only album that they put out. But this has a bonus disc in here of 15 rarities, including 4 songs that were recorded with Kip Winger as the producer. They did a number of soundtracks and other things like that, but I've never heard of them. I've never even seen this on LP, which in fact, this is, as I understand it, first time on CD. So maybe why I've never actually seen one in the wild. But for a heavy metal band that's all female led, this is really good stuff. If you like Vixen, if you like Lita Ford, things along those lines, I think you'll really like this. In fact, for me, I think it just came out a little too early. If this had come out in '87, I think these ladies would have been, a hot commodity. People would have tuned into it a bit more. But 1985 was just kind of right before all the glam metal and everything really exploded big in the '86 to '91 time frame, which was really the heyday of it. But that's a great album right there. And then here's one that I didn't know anything about until I looked into who it was. Withering Scorn, and it actually features 2 former Megadeth members, Sean and Glenn Drover. There's another photo of the guys there. Drummer and guitar player from Megadeth, going off and doing their own thing here. Withering Scorn, and I gotta say, it does sound a lot like Megadeth in that regard. There's elements of it that I listened to, and for the albums that Sean and Glenn played on, I do hear that connection with it. It's on Frontiers Records, which I was a little surprised about being as heavy as this was. But good stuff if that interests you, if you're a fan of Megadeth like I am, and you always like to know what the guys that came from Megadeth, what they've gone on to do. Withering Scorn is something definitely worth checking out. On to the new releases that came out just this past week on August 11th. One that at first I wasn't sure I was going to really enjoy. Then I heard a couple of the singles that kind of changed my tune on it. And when I got it, it confirmed the fact this is an outstanding album. George Lynch and Jeff Pilson doing their second album together under their names, George Lynch and Jeff Pilson, because they did do an album called Lynch Pilson, or LP. This is a different project here. It's called Heavy Hitters. This is the second one where they do almost all cover songs, because the last song on here is original, but they basically do rock and pop songs and they turn them into heavy metal anthems. So you get songs like Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer on here, but you also get songs by like Imagine Dragons, Radioactive, and you get the song Stay With Me from, I think, Sam Smith is the artist, and they rock these versions up. And I have to say, well, I didn't really know the songs, the more popular songs. I had to look them up and find out who they came from. But if you're a fan of pop music from today, you're probably going to really like these two Heavy Hitters albums, because they throw a lot of that stuff in there done rocked up. I actually just ended up liking the songs and then finding out they were more modern day songs. But they've also got stuff by NXS, Tears for Fears, Billy Squier, Rolling Stones on here. So again, if you're a fan of the more older classic era of rock, it is really good. But you like George Lynch soloing the way that he does in Dokken, you got all of that going on here. Bernard Fowler is the vocalist, who's the backup vocalist for the Rolling Stones and never really gotten the attention he deserves. But after listening to him on here, you're going to wonder why this guy is not out there making solo albums or fronting other bands, because he is so good on this thing. Give it a chance if you haven't already given it a listen. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by it. King Cobra put out a brand new one here. The album is called We Are Warriors, and we've got Carmine Appice in the lineup, of course, on drums, and Johnny Rod. But we've got Paul Shortino on lead vocals. I think this is the third album that he has done with the King Cobra lineup now, when they reformed. But now we've got new guitar players in tow here. We've got Carlos Cavazo, formerly of Quiet Riot and Rat, joining, and Rowan Robertson, formerly of Dio, having done the Lock Up the Wolves album. That sounds good to you, definitely check this out, because these guys do an amazing job. It's more of a super group now than it ever was before, but now you've got these great guitar players mixed in with a great rhythm section of Carmine Appice and Johnny Rod, and you got former Quiet Riot vocalist Paul Shortino in there. And the cool thing is, with Carlos Cavazo, Paul Shortino, you've now got more members of Quiet Riot in King Cobra than you do in the actual Quiet Riot, which only has Rudy Sarzo. I know I've pointed that out a couple times, but it just kind of sounds funny to me, so I love telling you guys about it. Okay, and one that was probably bigger for you more classic rock fans out there, it's the Neil Young album, or the lost Neil Young album, I should say, Chrome Dreams. This was recorded, or well, it was supposed to be released back in '77, but recorded between '74 and '77. And it was kind of one of those mythological albums that had been talked about for so long, and people had just, this was supposed to be the holy grail of Neil Young albums and so forth. If so many of these songs had not been released on later day albums and redone in different versions, I would say this would have been a mind-blowing album. But we know most of the songs that are on here. We've got the song Pocahontas, Like a Hurricane, Homegrown, Sedan Delivery, Powderfinger, all songs that have been released in other formats. So it's kind of like a greatest hits of Neil Young done in their original version, the way that he recorded them for this album. But of course, the album got shelved. So very cool to finally be getting this now. Like I said, it's been talked about in hush circles for so long about the album that needed to be released, and now it's finally gotten that release. Sound quality is fantastic. While Neil may release the occasional dud in terms of bootleg live recording, his studio stuff is always done really well, and this is no exception. The recording that was done between '74 and '77 is full-on studio recordings of these great songs. And again, they're done in slightly different versions, so you are getting something different when you check this out. It is not just simply a greatest hits. All right, moving into some of the other stuff I bought. Last episode or week ago when I did this, I showed you guys a Robin Trower album that I picked up, Bridge of Sighs. Well, I picked up one from 1990. This one here, In the Line of Fire. I just read the who's who that was in this lineup. We got Davey Pattison on here, who sang for Gamma. We've got John Reagan on bass, Tony Beard on drums, Bobby Mayo on keyboards. So quite the lineup plan on this album here. And of course, I just like albums from the late 80s and early 90s, and this one did not disappoint. It is still got that blues-infused sound of Robin Trower, but a little bit more of the rocked-up version that I tend to like. So my second Trower album, and yeah, there'll probably be more coming down the road, but at least for now, I've got 2 in the catalog so far. Okay, and then you guys saw this in my last episode of Let's Go to the Record Store at Academy Records. I picked up some newer releases. Night Demon, Outsider. I think this is their 3rd album. It's a trio. These guys are a throwback to the new wave of British heavy metal sound. They do not disappoint. This album here is 2023. It is a brand new album that came out for this year. And just, again, some good new modern metal that is a nice throwback to the classic stuff of the 80s. This one here I didn't know anything about, but I recognized having seen the album cover around as something, thought I'd give it a listen and check it out, and was not disappointed. Red Sun Rising, and this is called Polyester Zeal. Don't know what that means, but this is like a throwback to grunge era albums of the 90s, but again, a modern band. This one is from 2015, and while I'm not the biggest fan of the stuff out of grunge, I did grow up with it. I do like a lot of those bands, but not quite the same where any band that sounds like the stuff from glam metal I will jump on. But I gotta say, when I checked this album out here, I actually surprisingly really liked it, and it just kind of hit the spot for that day when I was in the mood for it, so I grabbed it. They've got 2 albums out. I'll probably be checking out the second one, but so far I am enjoying that. And then this is one that I had seen around and checked out but never picked up, and finally decided to. Thunderpussy, the all-female rock band, very hard rock, throwback to 70s sounding style stuff, and just good. I think it is their only album. Interestingly, it's on Stardog Records and related to Mike McCready of Pearl Jam, in that he had something to do with getting them signed or helping to release a single or something early on by them. But there's some connection with them. So, if it's good enough for Mike McCready, if it's good enough for the Stardog label, which released Mother Love Bone, then it's good enough for me. But just trying to give you guys some reference point as to what they might sound like due to connections and things like that. That stuff always helps me in determining when I know nothing about a band, getting a little point of reference at least as much as you can. Okay, and as part of that Let's Go to the Record Store video, got a lot of people asking me what was the music playing in the background, especially asking me about the thrash band that was playing. I thought it was pretty evident when I talked about it in the video, but maybe I didn't make the connection fully there for you guys. It was Donner Party. This is a New Jersey local band from around the Wayne, New Jersey area where the record store Sound Exchange is. And one of the employees at Sound Exchange, Ted, popped it on and was playing it. And 3 of us that were in the store all around the same time said, "Who is that band?" We all thought it was, maybe a cross between Suicidal Tendencies, Slayer, and, who knows who else kind of thing. But it wasn't any of that. In fact, it turned out to be this New Jersey local band called the Donner Party. And as far as I know, they only have LPs available. This was on consignment, which means they don't have a distributor. So you can check it out on Spotify, I know for sure. Maybe it's also on Apple Music and other streaming services, but for sure is on Spotify because that's how it's being played in the store. I bought the last LP of it, and I know the other 2 guys that were in there were wanting it. One of them even drove to another store, Factory Records, to buy a copy of this. That's how good it was. So if you liked that thrash that was playing when I first walked into the store and for the first, so many minutes of the video, Donner Party, that's who that was. Check that out. I'm hoping they get some CD releases because I'd love to get a copy of that on CD. But there you go, something new and maybe a little harder to track down, but something cool to go after. All right, now I mentioned at the beginning, I also got some new rock concert shirts. This Iron Maiden Trooper shirt I got. The place that sent me these is Societies, and I'm going to leave a link in the description to them because I get a lot of you guys asking me about the shirts that I wear. And most of the times I tell you guys I either bought them at the concerts or I bought them at a local record store. And so unfortunately you guys can't get them too. But this one here and the four I'm going to show you in just a second, all come from a place online, Societees. Tees is how it ends, like the T-shirts. So, all right, one of the other ones I got, this very cool Aerosmith Boston 1973 throwback style shirt. Then I got this one here, a Styx shirt from '78, the World Tour. I really like the colors on this one. This one grabbed me for that alone. Foreigner 4. Talked about this one when I did the unboxing of these when they first came in the mail, but I like the ones where they made the shirt the color of, in this case, the album cover, which was gray, and then they do the graphic on it, but instead of doing it like just a square or rectangle that is the album art, they incorporate it more in it, doing less of the printed material over the color of the shirt itself, and that's one of the things I really like about Societees. They do it right. And so Foreigner 4, classic album, and a Steve Miller Band, a cool Pegasus icon or logo, however you want to describe that thing. And so yeah, just some cool rock shirts. You're going to see me wearing these in my videos going forward. And if you find any of those interesting, I do highly recommend the company. These are super soft shirts. There's no tag in them, so you don't get that scratchy feeling on the neck. They're very classic. Some have things printed on the back. These did not. I personally like the ones that are toned down just a bit like this, so that's why I chose these 5 here and get to add these to my collection. I had 70 or 80 shirts before, and I've added, a new 5 here kind of thing. I'm inching my way up to hopefully the 100 mark. And there you go. Those are all the things that I picked up. So 10 CDs, 1 record, 5 t-shirts, lots of cool stuff from this past week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode, and hopefully you guys got some new finds as well. Let me know what you guys got a hold of, and have a great week. Do check back next Wednesday when I do an all-new episode running through all the great stuff that I've got. Okay, take care everyone, and I'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.